my name is Ron Ross. I'm with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, representing the Georgia Dream program, and the following presentation is to cover the basics of underwriting a Georgia Dream loan. If at any time you have any questions, please give me a call at 404-368-7177. The underwriting decision, the credit underwrite, is 100% on the lender's side of this equation. We have our compliance reviews, we have our overlays that you must consider, but when it comes to underwriting the loan, the credit decision is 100% on the lender's side. As mentioned, and we'll cover a few of these a little bit later on, we do have our overlays prior to closing. Lenders must send us the fully approved loan, and we will review that loan to make sure that the decision was made in accordance with insurer guidelines, as well as meeting our overlays and guidelines as well. Some of the things that hold up some of our approvals are listed here, and these are just listed to give you an idea of what to just double check to make sure that everything is met to our guidelines. And very quickly, the applicant must be considered a first-time home buyer, and that means not owning a primary residence in the prior 3 years. The household income not exceed our requirements as listed in the brochure. The acquisition cost or purchase price within the limits of the brochure. All our forms completed and signed entirely. Many times people send us our forms and they're not filled out all the way, and that just causes a delay because we don't send them back to you, but we'll send you a condition that says please fully complete XYZ form. So just make sure all our DCA disclosures are filled out completely. The loan proceeds are utilized for purchase money only, and the rest would be pretty self-explanatory as you read through the guidelines. But again, if you got any questions on our specific overlays and guidelines, please give me a call. One of the things that is required on our part when we receive a file is that the loan be fully approved by the underwriter. This means sending us a signed underwriting and transmittal summary, a signed conditional commitment, a signed direct endorsement, and then should the loan be a USDA or VA, the appropriate signed documents there. When it comes to some of our overlays and credit scores, these can be found in the seller guide at section 207.6. There are not that many to consider, but there are several different possibilities. So please look them up in the seller guide, or as I've said before, please give me a call at any time. Be happy to go through that. Again, my number being 404-368-7177. When it comes to automated underwriting, if you're using LP or DU, we do accept, approve, eligible, or accept on those two. If it's total scorecard with FHA, we accept that approval as well. Regarding manual underwriting, this is an internal decision. You have to make sure that it's within your lender guidelines to approve a loan manually, but it is okay with us. We view a manual underwrite as the equivalent to my guidelines as a 620 score. So if you are going to approve a loan as a manual underwrite, it has to meet our requirements as if it were a 620, and those being max ratios of 35 on the ratios, and then a few other things as listed in the seller guide as well. On the situation that you might be doing a manual underwrite for My Community or some other conventional product, you must meet those guidelines as well as ours. Most of our loan programs are FHA loans, and so when it comes to FHA mortgage insurance, all normal calculations are applied there. Should the loan be a VA or USDA loan, then the appropriate mortgage calculations are there as well. Whatever the mortgage product is, you do have to meet the down payment requirements for that product. For instance, if it is going to be an FHA loan, then you still have to meet 3.5% down requirements as FHA requires. And if you're using Georgia Dream as a first mortgage, the down payment can be their own funds or a gift. If you're going to be using Georgia Dream as a first mortgage only or with down payment assistance, this is our rate. This, in many lenders' case, we are not a part of your normal rate sheet. We set the rate since we are the investor in the loan, and it's a good idea to sign up for our weekly rate sheets just to make sure that you have the most current information available to you. But just keep in mind, again, this is not a rate that is on your normal rate sheet. It is the Georgia Dream rate. Once a loan officer or secondary, whatever your internal policy might be, goes to our website and reserves the loan, that rate is reserved for 75 days. And what's important about that 75 days is that covers the time it takes for us to receive a purchase package. So most people kind of review the reservation period as a 60-day window to close the loan, giving your post-closing department another 2 weeks to get the loan. If you do not believe that you'll meet that 75-day time frame, the rate can be extended. There is a form to fill out to do that, to extend it for 30 days. There could be a $75 charge to extend it for 35 days. Depending on the circumstances, you are allowed 2 30-day extensions if the sale is a foreclosure or short sale, as we know that sometimes they can take a little bit longer. This is the current screenshot of our website, which is gadream.com. And I mentioned earlier receiving our rate sheet. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a section to enter in your email. You'll be asked to confirm it one extra time when doing so. And then every Thursday, our rate sheet comes out. And one of the most important parts about the rate sheet is to open it and read through it and just pay attention to if there's anything announcing a pending change or update to make sure that you're up to date with the current information. From an underwriting standpoint, these forms should already be in your package, but just to let you know what should be in there to approve from a Georgia Dream standpoint is our forms SF 10, 12, maybe 15. The 15 is if you have an adult household member who's not on the 1003, then we have to know what that person's income is, and they fill out the SF 15. SF 16, and then 72 or 72 REO, the difference between those two is based on the seller. If the seller is a person seller, you need SF 72. If it's a foreclosed property, you need 72 REO. And then the 16 and 72, whichever one it is, also has to be signed by the seller. Now, we do not need originals. So these can be scanned, faxed, and sent over to the sellers. The page we get has to have 2 signatures on it, the buyers and the sellers, but they do not have to be originals. And please be very, very careful. They have to be legible. Sometimes when you fax things around, they condense in size and they're hard to read. Last form is a household income worksheet, just showing us how you came to determine that their household income met our guidelines. The submission checklist shows the stacking order that the files come to us. The address to send the package to is on the very top of that form, and this is a very quick review of the list of those things. The first 8 things are covered and highlighted in red because that's all we are. The Georgia Dream documents are just these first couple things in red. Everything else should really be in your file already. The forms are pretty self-explanatory as what needs to be in there from a Georgia Dream standpoint. Number 3, however, I will point out, in my opinion, as an ex-loan officer, I thought it was very, very helpful to write up a very brief statement about if there's anything unusual about the loan, how you calculated income, what the household size is, how the makeup is, different last names, different living scenarios. Anything that you might think would be unique to the loan, very, very helpful to write it up as a cover letter, include it in the final. Number 9, where it says final 1003. This is the 1003 that you've approved that's going to go to closing. We don't need an extra signatures or anything in that regard, just the 1003 that's going to go to closing. Next couple things are pretty self-explanatory as far as things that are already in your file. When it comes to verifying income, number 20, this is pretty important. We only need the most recent pay stub that goes along with your underwriting decision that's dated within 45 days of that decision. If for some reason you have a file that you've been working with for 3, 4, 5 months, trying to help with the credit or whatever the scenarios might be, at that point you've probably got 2 or 3, 4, 5 months of pay stubs. We do not need that many pay stubs in our review because, again, we're not credit underwriting the file. We're just looking for income documentation, so please only send us what we're looking for there. When it comes to bank statements, the same kind of thing. We only want the bank statement dated within 45 days of your underwriting decision or whatever DU might require. If DU for some reason required 2 months of bank statements, we do need 2 months. But same scenario. Say you had a file that you've been working on for many, many, many months. We do not need 3, 4, 5 months of bank statements. That is your decision since you've approved the loan. We've assumed that you've looked at that and approved it and you're okay with it. We're just looking primarily for current assets to meet our guidelines on that as well. This is one area that we do require something in addition to what your normal package might be when it comes to federal tax returns. For starters, we do not need state tax returns. We only need federal tax returns, and we need them for 3 years, as well as the most recent W-2 that go along with that. If you're going to send me only the tax returns, those tax returns have to be signed by the borrower. If it's your common practice to get transcripts along with tax returns for your underwriting approval, you can send us both, and in that case, the tax returns themselves don't have to be signed. But it's either or. If it's only tax returns, they must be signed by the borrower. If you're going to send me transcripts to cover every year, then the tax returns don't have to be signed. One thing that holds up some loans is this contract itself. As you go through the process, if there are any addendums to the contract, any extensions of the contract, any purchase prices, every now and then we tend to be the last one to get a copy of some of those. So please make sure that we have the final copies of all parts to the contract. The appraisal comes to us. We review to make sure that all FHA guidelines were met in the appraisal. And please double check it, as you probably do already, but we receive a great number of appraisals in where the FHA language, property meets HUD minimum property standards, is omitted. And at that point, we require it to be there, so you have to contact the appraiser again. They have to add it, so again, just kind of adds more time. The last couple things in the checklist are pretty self-explanatory, as many other ones are. They're going to be in your file already. It's the flood cert, homebuyer education cert, if it's a USDA loan, those forms, any backup documentation required for our second mortgage program, some of our specialty programs like Choice or Penn, if you need to add additional information there. And then last, we need a chain of title as well as the homeowner's insurance by the customer. It is a Georgia Dream requirement that the maximum deductible for the insurance is $1,000. When it comes to underwriting a loan, there's probably not a whole lot of need to get involved in the HUD-1. However, for your informational purposes, just a quick review of what's going to show up on the HUD-1. All third-party fees are going to stay the same. The appraisal costs, the attorney fees, the recording fees, the intangible tax, all that stays the same. The maximum origination per Georgia Dream guidelines is 2%. Some internal lender guidelines may say it's a maximum of 1, so double check internally what your lender guidelines require. Should the loan be a 203K, then whatever the reasonable and customary allowable fees by FHA for those are charged. Additional lender fees. We don't get too worked up regarding what you call them, whether it's a processing fee, administrative fee, underwriting fee. Double check to make sure that the customer has to have at least $1,000 in the transaction. It is acceptable to get some cash back at closing as long as the customer nets in $1,000. The tax service fee maximum is $67, and should you have a need to close the loan as an interest credit, that is acceptable, and the guidelines for that is in section 312.2. The second mortgage now requires being closed with its own HUD, and there are some fees that are going to be charged now. You can charge a 1% origination fee on the down payment assistance. That is lender specific. There are some lenders who do not charge that, so again, check internally. Should the attorney charge more for closing a Georgia Dream second mortgage down payment assistance loan, the max additional is $150 on the second. The filing fees or recording fees for a 10-page deed, I've seen many lenders charge $35 for that. Depending on the county, it might be a little more or a little less, but that's going to get you pretty close. The intangible tax, $3 per thousand, and the $10 GRMA fee. Once we receive the loan package, again, it has to be a fully underwritten, fully approved package before it comes to us. Once we review the file, it's our standard protocol to try to review all of loans coming into us within 2 days. If we have any conditions prior to approval, we will send that over as a prior to condition. But once you get the approval from us, you'll be sent a congratulatory letter. Congratulations, your loan is approved, and this is what you need to do at closing. Your closers need to receive that approval, so to make sure that in addition to your normal closing package, they're following our closing procedures as well. The number at the top is the numbers to reach our main office. And as I say, my name is Ron Ross, and you can certainly give me a call if you like at 404-368-7177. We thank you so much for your interest in Georgia Dream Lending, and let us know if we can help you.